I don't really like it anyway.
Go for it.
I'll grab it if I need it.
Okay,
I don't know.
absolutely. It's so important to say. Okay.
It is 6:30, and I call the April 11, 2023 regular meeting of the Franklin County Planning Commission to order. Before we get into the meeting, I will turn things over to staff to discuss meeting format.
Tonight's meeting will be conducted through a hybrid in-person/online meeting platform. Should an individual planning commissioner become unexpectedly disconnected, please rejoin the meeting at your first opportunity. The record will reflect your attendance. The meeting will be paused for up to 10 minutes to address technical difficulties. If they cannot be resolved within 10 minutes, then the meeting will proceed so long as a quorum of the planning commissioners are present. Please mute phone when not speaking. If you wish to continue or if you wish to comment or need clarification on a public hearing item, please send us an email at planninginquiry@franklincountywa.gov before the public comment period closes. Once public comment period has closed on said item, comments will not be included as part of discussion. To those in attendance, please remember to speak into the microphone when addressing staff or public comment/testimonies.
Will planning staff please call roll and announce whether or not we have a quorum?
Mike Crowlis,
Here.
Mike Vincent,
Here,
Leighton Lowe. Okay. Melinda Didier. Peter Harpster.
here.
Manny Gutierrez.
Here.
Stacy Knifton. Mr. Chair, we do have a quorum.
Will staff in attendance please introduce yourselves?
Derek Broughton, Director of Planning and Building.
Ryan Nelson, Planner 1.
Aaron Gunderson, Planner 1.
We will now do Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Got a motion first. Who first?
Mr. Chairman, I'd move that we approve the agenda for tonight's meeting.
It has been moved by Commissioner
Vincent.
Commissioner Vincent and seconded by Commissioner Gutierrez. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the March 7th, 2023 meeting.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, again, I would move to approve the minutes for the March 22nd meeting.
March 7th.
March 7th?
Yep.
March 7th meeting.
It has been moved by Commissioner Vincent and seconded by Commissioner Harpster. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. What?
So you've had a long day, haven't you?
Blank, it's all blank. Okay, it is now time for public hearing portion of our meeting. Good evening and welcome. I will turn things briefly over to our staff host who will go over the ground rules for tonight's hearing.
Here are the ground rules. Oh, you gonna do it? Go ahead.
I guess I can, yeah, sorry.
More practice.
So here are the ground rules for tonight's hybrid meeting. In-person public testimony be divided in two groups, for and against/neutral. They'll be called upon to speak during their allotted in-person public testimony section, giving their name for the audio record and their position on the proposal. Call-in public testimony will be called upon individually during the call-in public testimony, giving testimony portion of the hearing, giving their name for the audio record, as well as if they are in favor, neutral, or against the proposal. Please remember to mute audio when not speaking. Email comments received during the public hearing will be read into the record by staff after the call-in public testimony section of the hearing. All comments and questions shall be addressed to the Planning Commission and should be relevant to the application and not be of a personal nature. Each speaker shall have 5 minutes to provide testimony and shall speak into the microphone. Please avoid repetitive comments. If there are a large number of speakers who are part of a group or organization, please select a representative to speak on behalf of the group. Behavior such as clapping, booing, hissing, or remarks is prohibited. Every citizen here tonight should have the opportunity to testify without such distractions.
Okay, can I bring this up now?
Well, Stacy's
Stacy's
gonna be
just said
calling
he
in.
lost, you got a text from, so he's gonna call in,
Yeah, we're gonna send him.
getting him hooked up?
Yeah, I don't have
We'll
to.
send him call instructions.
Okay, we'll keep going and then let us know when he's in. Are there any questions regarding the public hearing ground rules? Turning for a moment to our commission members, let us keep in mind that we are prohibited by law from communicating with other members of the public on this subject matter of these hearings, except in these hearings. We also may not participate in discussions in which there is an appearance of conflict of interest to the average person. So let us take a minute to consider as to the matters which are before us for this hearing today. Whether we had any ex parte communications, whether we have any ownership interest in the properties, whether we have any business dealings with proponents or opponents of the matters, or whether we have business associates or immediate family who may either benefit or be harmed by a decision in these matters. Are there any commission members who have a declaration at this time regarding any of the items on the agenda?
Yeah, I know Mr. Dockstetter for agenda item 2, both personally and professionally. Clients he represents, clients I represent, interacted on several projects together. This, I don't know Mr. Strangeland, and this site is nowhere near any of the projects that we have worked on in the past or are working on now. So I'll just make that declaration, but I will not be recusing myself.
Okay, anybody else?
I'll make a declaration. I too have known George Dockstetter for a number of years, many, many years, but I won't be recusing myself.
Okay. I also know George and very casually, and I am friends with Steve DeRuiter, and I've done some business with Steve DeRuiter, and I will not be recusing myself unless there is a request. Is that everybody? Okay. Let the record show who has spoken. There were no objections.
You didn't ask the public.
Oh, are there any objections? Okay, there are no objections. The order of the hearing shall be as follows. Planning staff shall provide a staff report. The commission may ask questions of staff. The applicant or applicant's representative's presentation. In-person public testimony for, against, or neutral regarding the project. Call-in public testimony for, against, or neutral regarding the project. Email public testimony for, against, or neutral regarding the project. To be read into the record by staff. Final staff comments, clarification of public statements that occurred during the testimony portion of the public hearing, and then we will close the public hearing and planning commission discussion of the proposed action. Are there any procedural questions before we begin the public hearing? Okay. Item number 1 is a public hearing for CUP 2023-2, SEPA 2023-03. Is a proposal to allow for the construction and operation of a renewable natural gas production facility near the site of a dairy facility. Features of the renewable gas production facility are manure conditioning, digestion, and solid separation. Gas conditioning and upgrading systems will also be built. I declare the public hearing for CUP 2023-02, SEPA 2023-03 to be open at 6:39. May we have staff present the staff report?
Thank you, Chair. As mentioned, it's conditional use permit for a biogas facility be located at an existing dairy facility owned by DeRuyter. The agent is Aqua Engineering. However, the actual proposal, trying to remember what they're called now. There's a mistake regarding the agent. We had put Aqua Engineering, they're the agent, but we've also referenced them in our staff report as the applicant. That's incorrect. It's a different entity. That's the actual, but so materially, nothing changes, just wanted to bring that up. So we'll make that change, and we'll make sure that the board's aware that that was a misinterpretation of the application on our part. So the site address is 2300 Cruise Road. The site comprises 3 parcels, 110-410-065, 110-410-047, and 110-320-037. The zoning for the land is agricultural production 20, comp plan designation is agricultural, and the entirety of the site, those 3 parcels comprise 698.82 acres. It's located south of Cruise Road, west of Juniper Dunes Road, east of Frontier Road, and north of Kepps Road. The request is to construct and operate a renewable natural gas facility, and they'll be using approximately 15 acres of the eastern part of parcel 110-410-065. Now, the DeRuyter's facility, their dairy facility, they already have a conditional use permit, for that operation. The reason why this is not an amendment to, and it's a new conditional use permit is very similar to what occurred with the Pasco reclamation facility. This facility will be independently owned and operated by these folks, basically leasing land, or maybe they're buying a portion. I don't know. We don't really care about how that part goes. That's between them and the landowner, what their specific arrangement is. But as far as the land acquisition, so because of that, that's one reason why this is not an amendment to an existing CUP. It's a new facility being requested to locate on that same property. So just as an FYI, I get asked this when I go to the board, so why it isn't one or the other. So site plan location shows the location of 3 digesters, an additional future digester, process control building, pipe racks, ASB tanks, digestate tank, area for office, bathroom, and pole barn. I'm assuming that is what that's supposed to mean, for parts and maintenance. Yeah, okay. Just another thing, these, because of the nature of this type of project, they're often what's known as design engineered. They have to get down, and sometimes they may have to tweak things or move things to a different location or something like that. So the exact arrangement may not, when it's fully built, reflect exactly how it's shown on the site plan, but that's okay. That's permitted under the codes. It's more a matter of they don't exceed the square footage, they don't exceed the capacities. Those would trigger an amendment or something to the CUP. But moving things in a different location because it works better for the project, there's nothing wrong with that on a site plan at this stage. When they actually go for permits, yeah, that site plan will have to be locked down. But again, remember with a conditional use permit, a lot of times these are conceptual because they're seeking permission to proceed, and a lot of the detail will be worked out in the actual final development, the specifics. And this is the site. So, is it here or over here? No, the eastern, up there.
No,
We'll get it. Don't we? We have the site plan in here, right?
Yeah, should be.
Yeah. So I thought it was over here, but I might be mixing it with somebody. What's that? Okay, it was over there. Okay. There's just some assessor's photos. It's a well-developed and relatively clean site, you know, I mean, it's, so, on or about March 8th, 2023, we sent notices to technical agencies, property owners for 1 mile, and the Franklin County Graphic notifying of this proposed action and the hearing tonight. We posted a pending land use action sign on the property and issued a SEPA under SEPA Registry 202-301-023. Staff does recommend approval of the proposal based upon a review of the utility goals, there's another typo, and policies contained within the Franklin County Comprehensive Plan, along with a review of the Franklin County Code. Agents' comments were an approach permit is required to access Franklin County roads. Any utility extension crossing county roads will be addressed at the time of application, so that would have come up at the time of build. Proposed use in the AP 20 zoning district is in accordance with the goals and policies of the county development regulations and the applicable comprehensive plan. The land's agricultural, it's zoned AP 20. The applicant has applied for a conditional use permit. I would also add that this proposal, because of its gas mitigation and the release of that, also is beneficial with regard to our environmental goals for reducing greenhouse gases. Proposal will not adversely affect public infrastructure. Access to the parcel will be from Cruise Road, and there's not that many, it won't have that much of an employee impact on the site. Proposal will be constructed, maintained, and operated to be in harmony with the existing or intended character of the general vicinity. The area is farms and open space. There's already an existing dairy facility there. These units are just going to look like more equipment, pipes and stuff. You're not going to, you know, is that milk going through there, gas going through there, water? You know, so it'll just be integrated into the facility. And the zoning of the site, most of the parcels near the site is AP 20. And as mentioned, it'll be in conformance with the existing dairy facility, and if anything, it'll help reduce odors and other things out there, so it could actually improve things going on out there. Same thing here. Won't be objectionable noise, fumes, vibration, dust, traffic, or flashing lights. It just won't, it doesn't have anything that's high enough that's going to trigger a need for, you know, signal lighting or anything along those lines. And the dairy, I'm sure, already has a lot of lights out there, so shouldn't be any change there based on what we've seen with the proposal. And it won't endanger the public health, safety, or general welfare if located where proposed. Yeah, we received no written comments, and the property is conform, you know, to the or subject to the county's right to farm, but that's actually kind of to their benefit in this situation. Best management practices to minimize dust during construction. These are our recommended conditions of approval. They should do an inadvertent discovery protocol regarding archaeological materials due to the fact that it's already a developed site, active site where there's, yeah, so. Application for Franklin County building permit shall be submitted for fencing and structures. Applicant will need to comply with any other local, state, and federal regulations pertaining to this development. They'll need to get an approach permit, and then if they're going to be crossing any Franklin County roads, they'll need to discuss that with Public Works. I'm happy to answer questions, and we do have a suggested motion at the end.
Does any commissioner have questions? Does the applicant or the applicant's representative wish to speak?
thank you for taking the time tonight. I really don't have anything to add. I think there's a lot of information in the packet, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Respect your time.
And your name?
Oh, sorry. Kevin Alcott with Aqua Engineering.
Okay.
Sure.
Derek, you spoke about the reduction of gases through what method is being reduction of the gases?
What do you mean?
You talked about reducing greenhouse
Right.
gases.
Well, it captures the methane and it converts it into natural gas that is then used for energy purposes. So instead of that just into the atmosphere, it gets captured, turned into natural gas, and it's just, I couldn't give you volume numbers because I don't know how much this facility produces, but that's the nature of these things. One of the big benefits to them is it basically takes waste, turns it into a usable product, as well as reduces the release of those greenhouse gases. So
So just, if I may, just
he's
add
the
to that.
engineer; he'll be able to tell you even more.
Well, just in order of magnitude, we hear about CO2 in the atmosphere, and that methane is 20-plus times as bad for the greenhouse gas than CO2. So we're capturing any methane that right now is, as the manure digests or breaks down, we capture that and control it and put it in the gas pipeline for use in houses, basically. Cars. Yep.
And for the record, the applicant is ARW LLC, as opposed to Aqua Engineering.
And just one other comment, we talked about an approach permit with the county. We're coming off of a farm road that's already got a paved access connection.
Yeah.
So we won't have any issues with that.
Yeah, that'll, again, it's always addressed at the time of permit application, but it's a standard comment.
Right. So, any other questions I can answer? Good, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any in-person testimony for this project? Is there any testimony against or neutral? Is there any call-in testimony for, against, or neutral?
Nope.
Any email testimony?
Nope.
Okay. Does staff have any final comments?
Not at this time. I do have a suggested motion if that's something you'd like to see.
Put it up. Is there any clarification of public statements needed by anyone from the audience? The public testimony portion of the public hearing for CUP 2023-02, SEPA 2023-03 is closed. Is there any discussion amongst planning commissioners prior to entertaining a motion? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
I move that the Franklin County Planning Commission recommend that the Board of County Commissioners adopt the 6 findings of fact and 10 conditions of approval detailed in the staff report and approve case file CUP 2023-02/SEPA 2023-03.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Harpster and seconded by Commissioner Gutierrez that we forward to the Board of Commissioners a recommendation of approval for CUP 2023-02, SEPA 2023-03, with 6 adopted findings of fact and 10 conditions of approval. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Mike Rallis,
Yes.
Mike Vincent,
Yes.
is General Stacy on call?
No.
Manny Gutierrez,
Yes.
Peter Harpster.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, the motion has been approved.
Okay, motion approved. Item number 2. Item 2 is a public hearing for file ZC 2023-1, SEPA 2023-02. Is a proposal to rezone 3 parcels consisting of approximately 63.56 acres across 3 parcels. The zoning district designation of these parcels would change from agricultural production 20, AP 20, to general industrial, I-2. Comprehensive land use designation is rural industrial. I declare the public hearing for ZC 2023-01, SEPA 2023-02 to be open at 6:55. May we have staff present the staff report, please?
Thank you, Chair. As mentioned, this is a zone change request for the state, Mr. Strangeland, and the agent is Mr. Dockstader. The parcels being requested for a rezone are parcels number 124550147, 124550211, and 124550212. The location is generally located east of South Landing Road, east of Glade North Road, west of US Highway 95, and north of West Vineyard Drive. Current property size of all parcels when combined is approximately 63.56 acres. The comp plan designation is rural industrial. Current zoning is agricultural production 20. And as mentioned, it's a request to transition the zoning from agricultural production 20 to general industrial I-2. These are the properties. Oh, there it is. Yeah, so there's one here, here, and here. That's the rail line. That's Glade North Road. That's Self Landing, so 395's over here somewhere. And that's the current zoning on the property. As mentioned, it's the underlying comprehensive plan designation for the property, though, is industrial. The application is to rezone those parcels, a total of approximately 63.56 acres from AP 20 to I-2. It's in a limited area of more intensive rural development, otherwise known as a LAMERD. It's basically called the rural industrial LAMERD. It's the majority of Franklin County's industrial land is right in that area. And because it's a LAMERD and the fact that it's got an underlying designation of industrial as opposed to agricultural, it is appropriate or allowed for this property to be rezoned using a quote simple rezone. There's no comp plan amendment change required for it. These are at the northern edge of the LAMERD, and it's surrounded currently, all the land around them is also the rural industrial LAMERD. They're seeking to do the rezone for, to allow additional businesses to be developed on the individual property and to minimize the need to further subdivide the property used for active farming activities. On or about March 8, 2023, staff sent notices to technical agents, property owners within 1 mile. The Franklin County Graphic also posted a pending land use action sign on the property, issued a SEPA optional determination of non-significant SEPA registry 202-301-139. The optional determination of significance, you saw that in the last one, and in this one. Those, what that is we kind of have a preliminary DNS, where, so basically we don't actually finalize the DNS until the hearing, after this hearing, when we get all the public comments. And then that helps us determine whether or not the other process is I issue a DNS, and then say we get comments or whatnot that causes me to amend the DNS. It all works the same in the end. It's just different processes that you can use. I tend to like this because I like to do things once, so you'll probably see this a little bit more often than we have in the past. We received comments from the following agencies: Public Works, any new lots as a result of this proposed zone change will require access to a county road shall be subject to county road approach policy. Any mitigation fees required will be determined on development of the property and will go towards future road upgrades as development continues to grow in the area. Washington State Department of Transportation submitted a letter on March 22nd, 2023, which was included in your read-aheads. The Franklin County Comprehensive Plan use guides development and redevelopment of lands within unincorporated areas of the county. Comprehensive Plan land use designation for the properties is rural industrial. The lands bounding the properties on all sides have a rural industrial comprehensive. In other words, rezoning this to industrial will not create a spot zone. As mentioned, it's AP 20. Properties to the west adjoining are I2, and the properties to the north, east, and south are zone agricultural production 20. There's no minimum lot size for the I2 zone except for allowed non-conforming residential uses. Proposed rezone is consistent with the comprehensive plan designation of rural industrial. It will allow for a more intensive use of the land upon any future subdivision, short platting of the properties. Rezone will result in a change in development patterns of the land, changing the property from ag use to industrial use. And the development standards, including density levels, the size of in this case, the size of the properties are different in AP 20 and I2. AP 20, minimum of 20 acres. I2, no minimum. Except for, the size of the property is generally going to be controlled by the use. So it'll be sized based on that if they did further subdivision, say for a site-specific subdivision or a business-specific subdivision where there's cutting off a piece of property for someone, that property, it would, so that's what would make it a minimum size. Primary permitted uses in I2 zone include processing industrial of ag products, building material storage yard, trucking express storage yards, contractor plant or storage yard. Whereas in AP 20, it's more ag focused types of uses, single family residence, agriculture, a rural retail based business that basically you're growing stuff in your backyard and you're selling it on the side of the road, or however you want to word that. Veterinary clinics, nurseries and greenhouses, and winery, distillery, brewery. It's much more agrarian in nature. I2 zoning district has significantly more allowed conditional uses, and as mentioned, it's you can get really intense, but it's also possible that, based on the activity on the site, it won't be so intense. You just never know. It's going to be that full range potential on the property. Change in zoning will bring properties into greater alignment with their comprehensive plan use designation of rural industrial. So it is appropriate, since the underlying comprehensive plan, that these lands are intended to convert to industrial lands over time. Rezone request is consistent with the surrounding area. And I2 zone is to preserve areas for industrial and related uses of such a nature that they do not create serious problems of compatibilities with other kinds of land uses. Uses in this district have the potential to generate high levels of noise, not nose, light, odor, fumes, or smoke that require their protection from encroachment by incompatible land uses. Residential land uses are discouraged from the zone. It's because generally residential activity just isn't compatible next door because of the noise, fumes, various other things. However, other activities can be made compatible. I just don't really want to read all this, but I have to, I guess. Rural industrial is a historically designated comp plan land use in Franklin County. This land use designation is provided for agricultural-related industries as well as those industrial uses requiring some distance from urban areas because, in other words, it's very similar to what we just saw under the I2 zone. It's to keep, we want to keep those types of activities kind of localized so we can minimize any negative impacts from that activity. And that's why it's where it's at. It's in proximity to a rail line, the highway, various other things, so that's proximity. You need your transport and travel access optimally, as opposed to being like, say, sitting out in the middle of the county with no access. So it's a logical area for it to be. And it's supposed to be to serve both the local and regional public. And yeah, and, we have sufficient industrial land designated already that there's no expectation in the future or in the near future that there will be a need to expand the Lammerd. North Pasco Industrial, again, it's a type 3 Lammerd. This boundary is not exactly accurate anymore as a lot of this territory has been taken in by the city over the years. But generally speaking, down the LOB for this area is Glade North Road to the west, Fenn Road to the north, SR 395 to the east, and the Pasco Urban Growth Area to the south, and that's been moving into it. So when determining whether or not this is an appropriate request, Planning Commission shall render a recommendation to approve with modifications and/or conditions, or reject the petition based on its findings and conclusions. The Commission's recommendation to include its finding and the Commission's recommendation to include its findings and conclusions shall be forwarded to the Board of County Commissioners at a regular scheduled business meeting. After completion of an open record hearing, Planning Commission shall make and enter findings from the record and conclusions thereof, and find whether or not the proposal is in accord with the goals, policies of the comprehensive plan. The effect of the proposal on the immediate vicinity will be material detrimental. There's merit and value in the proposal for the community as a whole. Conditions should be imposed in order to mitigate significant adverse impacts from the proposal, and whether a concomitant agreement should be entered into between the county and the petitioner, and if so, the terms and conditions of such an agreement. If the Planning Commission wishes to forward a positive recommendation, the following suggested findings of facts and suggested conditions of approval may be applicable for this file. It is in accordance with the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan. The effect of the proposal on the immediate vicinity will not be material detrimental. There is merit and value in the proposal for the community as a whole. Conditions are required to be imposed in order to mitigate any significant adverse impacts from the proposal. The rezone probably aren't going to have much impact. It's the potential uses that come along afterwards that may have impact. A concomitant agreement between the county and the petitioner is not required for this application. Suggested conditions of approval: future development at the site shall comply with county development regulations. Future development at this site shall comply with local, state, and federal agency standards. and any new lots that may be created as a result of this proposed zone change will require access to county road shall be subject to the county road approach policy, and any mitigation fees required will be determined upon development of the property and will go towards future road upgrades if development continues to grow in the area. So, long and short, those will be determined at the time of development based on the specific use proposed. Any questions?
No questions.
I have a question. You mentioned proximity, the road, it sounds like it's between the rail line there and
And 395.
395. And also, it's east of South Landing, so that proximity to Foster Wells Road would be to the south of it, right?
Foster Wells is
Foster Wells is about 5 miles south.
south, yeah.
Way south of it.
Yeah, this is
Right.
up, there, this, the Lambert, the I-2 Lambert only goes up further a little bit further. I mean, this is almost up at the tip.
So it's up closer to the turn across the tracks, South Landing Road.
I guess,
Yeah, I
yeah,
got it.
yeah. I just know about these, that's the rail line. It's laid north. But yeah, where in the, I can't remember off the top of my head, so I apologize, but yeah.
Yeah, just trying to get oriented, because I know Wilbur Ellis is down closer to Foster
Yeah,
Wells
so
Road, which,
that's-
and this is 5 miles to the north of that, sounds like.
Yeah, so it's American Potato. That's some BLM land right there, so.
Thank you.
Does the applicant or applicant's representative wish to speak?
George Dockstetter, Desert Hills Realty. I live right down the road on Self Landing. Self Landing crosses the railroad tracks, curves like that, and comes back up. What we're trying to do is establish, there's 3 separate parcels and 3 separate entities, all owned by Paul Stanglin. It's not Stranglin, it's
Oh.
take the R out. But anyway,
Stangling, not strangling.
yeah. But anyway, what we're trying to do, we're not really changing anything. We're just trying to consolidate all 3 parcels into one ownership and be able to refinance. And the banks want a finance not as for a personal deal, but industrial. This is all, potato storage here. That's potato storages, cutting sheds, truck parking, equipment. There's been a new potato shed already put on this site, and we can't expand any further without going to industrial to where we can cut down smaller sizes and be able to finance an individual potato storage. The way it's structured now, the bigger green piece is 40 acres. We cut anything off. We've got 2 20-acre pieces, and one of them already has a potato shed on it. So basically, we're in here asking to change the zone, which follows under the comprehensive plan, just like we did across the road on Self Landing on the other potato storages. We had to come in and get those changed to industrial. I don't know, that was probably 8-10 years ago when we came in and did that. And that's basically what we're here for. It's not going to have effect on any of the neighbors. I know some people worry about what's it going to do to my property values. It's not going to do anything because they're still going to be taxed under open space ag land. And it will change the property taxes on this sum, probably going up because it will be industrial instead of ag. And so, any questions, I'll gladly try and answer them for you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Is there any public testimony for the project? Any public testimony against or neutral? Is there any call-in public testimony for, against, or neutral? Any email public testimony? None. Does staff have any final comments?
Nope.
Do you have a motion ready?
Yep.
Is there any clarification of public statements needed from anyone in the audience? The public testimony portion of public hearing for ZC 2023-02, SEPA 2023-03 is closed. Is there any discussion amongst the Planning Commission prior to entertaining a motion? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
I move forward.
Is that on now? Okay. I move to forward CZ 2023-01/SEPA 2023-02 to the Board of County Commissioners, a positive recommendation with 5 findings of fact and 3 conditions of approval as provided for the staff report.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
It has been moved by Commissioner Gutierrez and seconded by Commissioner Vincent that we forward to the Board of Commissioners a recommendation of approval for ZC 2023-02, SEPA 2023-02, with 5 adopted findings of fact and 3 conditions of approval. Is there any discussion? May we have a roll call vote, please?
Mike Corrales,
Yes.
All right, hold on. Is it ZC 2301 or 2302?
Yeah, that sounded
It
weird.
switches back and forth.
You have 1 here and it's 2 on
The
here.
01,
yeah.
Want me to restate it?
got to be 01. Yeah, we need it restated with
Oh.
01. We apologize for that.
Oh, 01 is the first one, correct?
Correct.
It has been moved by Commissioner Gutierrez and seconded by Commissioner Vincent that we forward to the Board of Commissioners a recommendation of approval for ZC 2023-01, SEPA 2023-02, with 5 adopted findings of fact and 3 conditions of approval.
Thank you.
Roll call vote, please.
No, is there any discussion? I apologize.
We already did that.
Okay.
Do I need to re-ask Corrales about that one, since you already said yes?
Yeah, let's go. Let's start over.
Mike Corrales,
Yes.
Mike Vincent,
Yes.
is Layton on calling, or no?
You mean Stacy?
I was asking if Layton was online too.
I don't know. I'm not hearing anybody.
Mandy Gutierrez,
Yes.
Peter Harpster,
Yes.
Stacy, are you with us?
Yes.
Can I have a roll call vote for your vote for ZC 2023-01?
Is a yes.
Mr. Chair, the motion has been approved.
Okay. Moving on to item 3. Item 3 is a public hearing for file SEPA 2023-4. Proposal is a mandated 8-year review and update to the Franklin County, Washington Shoreline Master Plan. I declare the public hearing for SEPA 2023-4 to be open at
You want me to
7:19.
run that?
May we have staff present the
What?
staff report, please?
We're getting organized, hold on. Yeah, we'll do it that way, if that's what works for you.
All right, thank you. My name is Emily Weimer. Ooh. Let me know if that's good volume. I am with AHBL, your contracted planner. This is my first time in front of this planning commission, but you should be well aware of my associates who present here a lot more frequently.
It's been a while, though. Well, Nicole's and
Millyanne was
yeah.
here, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, it's nice to see everyone. It's nice to be here. Tonight is the public hearing for the county's Shoreline Master Program, SMP, periodic update. Next slide, please. I'll just start with a little bit of background on what the SMP actually is and why we're here tonight. State law requires that the county's SMPs be reviewed and revised on a set schedule. Franklin County's is due at the end of June 2023. We're just a little over 2 months away. And as required by law, Ecology has created a checklist of all the laws and statutes and applicable guidance. And based off of that, we have recommended changes. And that Ecology checklist is in your packet. I know it's a very long packet, but that checklist is in there.
Would it be easier for you to just do it from here?
Yes, I might sit down so I can see the
I
screen.
see you're going to get a crick. Get something bad to your neck.
I don't think I can get workers' comp for a neck injury. Okay, thank you, Derek.
Repetitive motion?
Okay. Each jurisdiction with shorelines are required to adopt SMPs, and this stems from the Shoreline Management Act. It was passed in 1971 and affirmed by voters in 72. Since then, state legislature has issued new rules. SMA governs the use and development of shorelines of the state. The three overarching policies are to protect the environmental resources of the state shorelines, preserve and enhance public access and enjoyment opportunities, and 3, give priority to uses that require a shoreline location. Now, the SMP implements the state's SMA, and it serves as the county's and the state plans, because they're adopted jointly, for managing shoreline areas. The SMP establishes the county's goals, policies, and regulations for shoreline protection, use, and development, and it establishes a plan for restoring shoreline in those areas where it has been degraded. So in Franklin County has chosen to adopt the minimum shoreline area, and that includes the floodways, lands within 200 feet of the ordinary high water mark, floodplains up to 200 feet from the floodway edge, and any associated wetlands within the 100-year floodplain. So in Franklin County, we have the Columbia, Snake, and Palouse rivers, as well as 18 lakes. Okay, so this is a joint process between the jurisdictions and Ecology. This is a joint public hearing tonight with Department of Ecology. I don't know if they're available tonight, but they are available as a technical resource. We are funded through a grant from Ecology, so they pay all of our consulting costs for this update. Franklin County is the lead for shoreline planning. That would be Derek within the unincorporated areas of the county. The county prepares, adopts, oversees, and enforces the SMP, and you are responsible for updating and keeping the program current. Ecology provides those guidelines, the financial support, and technical assistance. And in order for an SMP to take effect, Ecology has to approve it. One of the overarching themes of the SMP is this key concept called no net loss. So if there's anything that you should remember about SMPs, this is a really good concept. So no net loss means specifically no net loss of ecological functions necessary to sustain shoreline natural resources. And this is measured from the existing baseline conditions. So back in your last update, which was 2015, the county adopted a shoreline inventory and characterization report. That's all the science behind the shorelines. And that is not being changed in this update. This is just a periodic update. So that science from 2015 establishes the baseline. So new impacts from this point on must be avoided or mitigated. And there's restoration plans that will help restore and improve functions of the ecological functions through non-regulatory approaches. Okay, now I have 2 slides on the proposed changes to this SMP. Again, those changes are based off ecology rules and regulations of the state as set out in that checklist that ecology produced, and then we filled in with where we reviewed all the changes in state laws and determined if the SMP met it or not. So I'll go through these changes, a lot of just minor typographical edits. This update is pretty minor overall, so there's no big changes. So these might seem a little boring, but I'm just going to go through all the changes that we have so you're well aware of what we're proposing to change. We're specifying that development does not include dismantling or removing structures. That's in the definitions section. We added ADA-related retrofits to exemptions, and these are all required by state law. We added exceptions, which are different than exemptions, but equally important. Exceptions for several actions that are required by state law. We updated the definitions of nonconforming uses and development to align with ecology guidance. We updated the definition of floodway per ecology guidance. And then we did reproduce maps, so nothing in the maps themselves changed. The designations are all the same, the boundaries are all the same. We just updated the maps to add street names, some certain labels, and updated aerials. So the map book, I believe there's quite a few maps to fit the whole county in it. There's a series of maps. This is what they look like. There's 19 of them in total. Because it's a big county, so we want a good view of each of those specific areas. And then this slide shows proposed changes that are just related to the critical areas in the SMP. Through this update, the county is also pursuing an update to the critical areas ordinance as required by the Growth Management Act. So, I forgot the subconsultant's name. Herrera?
Oh, the engineering guy?
Yeah.
I want to say it's Herrera.
Well, through this process, we hired a subconsultant to review and update the,
Science.
yeah.
The available science.
Yeah, but it's called Best Available Science, BAS. That's required as part of the Growth Management Act. So we also looked at the critical areas ordinance and made changes as well. But in the SMP, critical areas only apply to critical areas in the SMP. There's also a separate ordinance in the code for critical areas. So it might be confusing. There's 2 separate critical areas or regulations. A lot of regulations required by the state. So
Just a few.
I won't go through all these. They're pretty basic. We added the wetland rating system, that's approved federally. We added a list of prohibited uses in critical aquifer recharge areas per ecology guidance. We added that critical facilities shall be, to the best extent possible, located outside a geologically hazardous area. So very basic updates, management, cleaning up some of these regulations. And then lastly, we updated several definitions related to critical areas based off of state guidance as well, to match either the WAC or the RCW or the county's critical area ordinance. Okay, so that might seem like a lot of changes, but I want to highlight what isn't changing, which is a lot. So previous effort in 2015 that the county undertook was very extensive, as opposed to this update, which is very narrow in scope. So this is just periodic update. Ecology is not funding any of that scientific analysis of shorelines that the county did in 2015 because not much has changed since then. So they're not funding any additional studies. As I mentioned, there are no changes to the floodplain mapping or shoreline designations. So, property owners should not be affected based on their changes to their property. And lastly, there's no changes to development standards, setbacks, height, width, lot coverage. That's typically what we get public comments on. People are worried what they can do on their property, but we're not proposing to change any of those regulations.
This also we have no control, or this doesn't regulate or dictate anything to the Corps. That's a whole different deal. The Corps is federal. This is a state issue, not a state issue, a state regulation between us and the state. They were provided opportunity to comment, but they're not a controlling partner in this arrangement. Some folks may be wondering about that. They may ask you about it, but the SMP has no bearing on the core land that are running along the shoreline. That's a whole different thing. And if they got questions about that, they need to contact the county administrator or one of their county commissioners, just because that's who's handling that little piece. Sorry.
Thank you.
I was asked about that earlier, so.
Lands under it's called exclusive federal jurisdiction, so that's exempt from the SMP. Okay, we have a 30-day mandated public comment period currently open, and this is joint with Ecology. It's a joint public comment period, so county advertise it in all the traditional ways. We set up a project website dedicated to this project, keeping it updated. They routed it as they would for any normal project in the county, SEPA, all that went through the process. The 30-day public comment period concludes on Monday. So we're almost through the comment period. We have received only one comment from the Colville tribes via email on the 6th, and they had no substantive comment. So the county's response is, thank you for your comment and for reviewing. Other than that, we have received no other comments. Okay. Next steps, after tonight's joint public hearing, we do have a little bit of a unique situation. So since the 30-day public comment period concludes on Monday, this is our recommended path ahead to avoid extra staff time coming back to another meeting. So if there are comments received between, if you decide to make a recommendation tonight and the end of the comment period, we will bring it back to you. But we are offering or suggesting this option, saying that you can forward a preliminary recommendation of approval, provided that no new substantial comments are received prior to the end of the comment period, which is Monday, the 17th. And if new substantial comments are submitted, and we defined what substantial means. So, for example, the Colville tribes said they have no comment. That would not be a substantial comment. Then we could revoke your recommendation and bring it back to you. So that is our option that we have utilized in other counties and cities during this process, because we don't anticipate any other comments coming back. But if you feel more comfortable, we can hold off a recommendation tonight and we can bring it back to you.
Why didn't we do this next month?
Time.
Time what?
We're trying to, well, for one thing, the normally we don't have a 30-day comment period.
You do, you do have, so with Ecology, you do have to hold the public hearing within the 30-day comments.
Right.
So we'll be too late next meeting?
It's going to be very tight. And I mean, this is not something that the public was not made aware of. I mean, all the folks along every property, we didn't do the city of Pasco because we don't do their SMP. But everybody along all the shorelines were sent a letter notifying them of this event or process and of this hearing. We also have a list of folks that we just send stuff to now. Since Mr. Bauman came in, we got that all set up to where we have a growing list of contacts that we notify. We got the word out on this. This was,
So do you guys want to do it now, or do you want to put it off?
I'd prefer to do it now.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
move on. Okay, does any commissioner have questions of staff? No. You're the who's the applicant?
we are.
We are. We don't have any questions.
You've just heard from our presentation.
No call-in testimony, email testimony? Does staff have any final comments?
I just concur. This is really more of a cleanup job than a regulatory suggesting massive changes. Any changes that were made were effectively required to be made because there was something we were missing with regard to state law, or maybe we needed to word things different. But it's not, even that's minimal. Any of that stuff. I mean, it was mostly cleanup. So, yeah. So I would concur. I don't see an issue with you guys making your recommendation this evening.
The public testimony portion of the public hearing for SEPA 2023-04 is closed. Is there any discussion amongst the planning commission prior to entertaining a motion? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Stacy, do you have any questions?
I don't.
Okay.
I move that the planning commission take revocable action to recommend to the Board of County Commissioners approval of the SMP periodic update package, including the draft amendments that the commission has reviewed, and forward the recommendation with the suggested findings of fact. I further move that if the county receives additional substantial comments between now and the end of the comment period, which extends to April 17th, 2023, the Planning Commission will instead hold an additional meeting to review the comments and reissue a recommendation.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Harpster and seconded by Commissioner Gutierrez that we forward to the Board of Commissioners a recommendation of approval for SEPA 2023-4 with the suggested findings as contained in the project memo. Is there any discussion? Can we have a roll call vote?
Mike Corrales?
Yes.
Mike Vincent?
Yes.
Manny Gutierrez?
Yes.
Peter Harpster?
Yes.
Stacy Knifton?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, the motion has been approved.
Okay, other business.
So before we get to this, this application was submitted.
You
I
weren't
was
even on
not-
the planning commission at the time.
Yep, wasn't on the planning commission, wasn't employed by Octerra, the applicant's representative. Now that I am, I think it's probably best, based on comments, to go ahead and recuse myself. And that, I think, would be fine. We wouldn't have a quorum, but we don't need a quorum to reconfirm
I
the
would concur,
recommendation.
except for one thing. This is not a quasi judicial item. This is a legislative item.
Okay, perfect.
This is a request to amend text in our code. It's not a zone change. Even a zone change, actually. Don't worry about it. I'm not going there because I could misspeak. Long story short, this is a development regulation. So this is something that can be discussed. It's not quasi judicial. It's based on policy. Therefore, you do not have to recuse yourself. That said, this should have been done a little while back. However, timing in the cosmos and me didn't agree. So basically what happens, we got this thing approved in
2021.
2021. but I'm trying to remember why it got dropped.
It had to do with the old building permit crisis.
Right, that's what happened. So I had my heart attack. I come back, chaos. And because we were dealing with, and this is not an excuse, it's just an explanation. That was when they updated the energy code. We got 48 or 10 weeks of applications in 48 hours. We're scrambling around. My building officials retiring. It was just, so unfortunately, along with me trying to catch things up and everything else, it got recommended by this body and then just never got to the board. So the purpose of this discussion is, by right, the planning commission does have a right to move forward with the existing recommendation. However, you also have a right to hold another public hearing on the matter because you've got new information you didn't have before. We didn't get any of these comments. There were no comments when we took action on this, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I mean,
The other thing, though, is this
They
is
all
in-
came on the same day
pretty
or
much,
two, it seems
they-
like.
we've been getting them since Monday, which was yesterday. So
Just advertise it and have this.
we can do that. It's really up to the planning commission, or you can just move it forward with your existing recommendation. Either one, because it's a legislative item, can be done. And that's really, it's up to you guys.
I have questions first, though. Okay.
Yeah, that's
So-
what this is for.
Oh, I'm going to go ahead and recuse myself and just grab me afterwards.
Okay, but do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
about,
no, I do.
You don't have to recuse yourself because, I mean, anybody here can recommend policy changes.
Yeah.
So,
Can we have a vote without Peter?
We can, because we got, it's
We
not
can.
possible judicial, but there is a quorum.
So we have, okay, so we're good. All right.
but understand that you're only voting on whether or not you want to move forward with the existing recommendation, or if you want to hold a public hearing. Those decisions can be made by this group.
Okay.
You know, now, since we got Stacy on the phone too, we've got a quorum as well. So, you know, however you guys want to, if you would prefer to hold a hearing, let's just hold a hearing. You know, but also, the applicant's been waiting a while.
I still have questions on this. I don't
Yeah,
even know.
so-
okay.
so, yeah, what are your questions?
So
it's
I
a
don't even
big
know what it
thing, you know?
means. This is
It's a big deal.
Is this how
Okay.
much of a lot has to be open?
Now,
What?
okay,
What?
right there, that tells me everything I need to know. We have to have another hearing. You guys can't make a decision if I'm telling you what this is about. It means
Right.
that, and it's fine. There's been a lot of things since then. That's what I wanted to know. We'll set this for next month to be a public hearing. Do we have time? Maybe not. June.
Yeah, 'cause
I guess
it's-
we'll have to hit it for June.
Why? Are we busy in May?
No, we
Well-
just don't have the time.
Yeah,
I have to get notices out. I have to do.
Oh.
And
Okay, so we're still not getting to this. Give me some info on this.
So, okay, so what is this? This is a request to go from currently, okay, gotta go back. PUD, planned unit development. It's a specific development type, okay? Where you go in and you're like, a lot of times this is where you're gonna see, say, development concepts, like, for example, maybe a tiny home community, and maybe a PUD. Not necessarily out and unincorporated, I'm just saying. But also they have like a country club, what's that, the place at it's the country club. The bar and the restaurant. Clubhouse, that's it, you know, so they have a clubhouse, so they've got a restaurant and a bar in there too, out in front of the pool. Well, the restaurant and bar, that's a commercial activity. The pool's a recreational activity, but it's in a subdivision in a residential zone. You know, but, so they come in, so it's kind of like a conditional use permit for a residential development. But it's only allowed generally, sometimes they'll do it outside of that, but generally where residential is allowed. So let's say I've got a 100-acre parcel, all right? So I've got a 100-acre parcel, it's RC1. Theory, I could build 100 lots, realistically closer to 80, because there's this thing called the 20% rule. So you got 80 lots, they're 1-acre lots. But I've got a pond in the middle of my property. And I've got some other things going on that I want to set up. I want to put in some basketball courts, a little like, big gazebo where families can have like big birthday parties, or whatever, and some other amenities. But these are for the residents to use. So an HOA I believe, must have an HOA, whereas a subdivision may or may not. The reason for that is because the HOA is responsible for maintaining all of that stuff I just described. But when you look at the property, you find out that of the 100 acres, say 60 acres is a lake. Well, what am I going to put my other 60 houses? Well, what it allows you to do is you can take that area and designate it as open space, right, for the enjoyment of the residents. So now they got a fishing pond, they've got, whatever. That acreage allows for an increase in density, but it's nominal. It's like 12%, I think.
Well, in our code, you're talking about the density bonus?
Yeah,
Yeah, in our code, I think it's like 20%.
20%. So one house more, maybe two. Yeah, we'll say two. They can get 2 extra houses, 20% of 100. So they can get a grand total of now.
20% of 100 is 20 houses. 1 or 2
Wait.
doesn't make.
Well, you're probably
seem-
thinking of like
Wait.
10. So for every 10 acres.
I'm
of
sorry,
1
you're right.
acre,
It'll
then
be
it's
20.
extra.
That's a big development.
Well, right, no, that's a different dynamic. On 100 acres, but what's going on is, yeah, they get the increased density, but they still have to shoehorn it into this area. So now the lots are going to be smaller. But they're still capped at, instead of 100, they're capped at 120. The reality is they're only going to be able to build 100 because of that 20% loss. But what happens then is they become clustered and maybe they're only quarter-acre lots, individual lots, but the entire subdivision is 100 acres because 60 acres of it they've set aside, so that's why they get that
recreational
bonus.
stuff, et cetera.
Open space.
So there-
But it's not public. It's
So
not
that
public
grows-
parks, open space,
Yeah.
it is
It's only for that
private.
community to use.
Exactly.
Just like a
Now, they
multifamily.
can choose to let the public in, that's really up to them. But it's not public open space like, say, a park, a municipal park or something like that. The comments seem to confuse that. They think
Yeah, they
that
do.
this might be real, and this has nothing to do with shoreline access unless the property already had designated shoreline access, which you can't take away. So if you buy a property that's got designated shoreline access and you want to subdivide it, you have to maintain that access to the public. But if it's private, it's private. So there was a lot in that. I know, and in fact, in our response, as you said, I tried to clarify that for folks to let them know that just be advised that this isn't involving your open space like parklands or something. This is private land.
And then the comment from PUD was,
PUD.
oh, I'm sorry, no.
Well,
Was there a-
almost
Well,
seems like
there
they-
was
for
a
right of
comment
ways,
originally
yeah.
when we sent it out from Franklin PD, and I think they were like,
Were they
they,
mixed
they
up
were
too?
kind of confused about
Yes.
it
Okay.
too.
Well,
Yeah.
it seems like what they're mixing up is open space on one hand, ag on the other. Instead, you know what I mean?
No, this group tends to be more focused on open space as in like access to the river or open.
Well, that's not an
Public
issue here, is it? No.
That's why we
So
explain that.
You're saying we have to put this back because you want to re-explain this to the world and then go
No,
again?
I'm
or-
saying it because you don't know what I'm talking
wants
about.
I do now.
Well,
Yeah, but now I'm a quick learner.
You don't know the record, you don't have the past, and I don't feel comfortable
No, I don't
Well,
either.
my question
moving
is, why,
forward if you guys don't know what we're
why
doing.
didn't we, the planning commission, because this is a reconfirmation of April 2021, why didn't we get more information on this?
Well, we did give you the packet.
We gave you the packet from.
Yeah, that was part of the included stuff.
Okay, because I didn't receive that. I only received the
It's-
first three. I didn't see
It
the
was
other-
in the
other
attachment,
order
it
of
said
business.
TC 2020-02.
I didn't get that.
Yeah, we went through some of that.
See, this seems simple to me. I mean, if you don't want to live in a tight community, don't live there. This is,
Well, it's a way to take a gross amount of land that not only would be unusable, and as per, zoning and density requirements we have, you're limited as to what you can do with it. This allows you to take some of this unusable land and still be able to have a higher density, private situation around it, right? As far as development.
Right,
Whereas
so-
before you'd have one, so you got 100 acres and you got 60 or 70 acres of a lake out there or marshland that's unusable, you might be down to, 1 acre lots or something, right?
Well, that's the thing, that, my scenarios assumed 1 acre parcels would be
Right.
standard if you had normal land, but you
Yeah,
don't.
it's a standard, right?
So, yeah, you would be limited to that, no more than 100 units.
Right.
Well, 120. So those could be condos. Those could be single family. They could be themed. They could be, and that's all worked out as long as they don't exceed that 120 density.
Yeah.
But they're giving up a lot of land.
So what
But
do you wanna
if it's
do then?
unusable land,
you want to,
okay, my work side says, hey, I don't want more work. Let's go
I'd
for
like
it.
to run through it again myself.
But the fact that you've asked me what you've asked,
Yeah.
we've got at least two people that weren't even, or three actually, that weren't here.
so you're
when
gonna
this
put out a public comment, put out for public comment again?
We'll have it set for June,
Okay.
to go in
okay.
June.
I
Well,
agree with that. I like that.
Yeah.
good enough? Okay.
And just mostly because I need to make sure that the packet that you have has everything you need, that you got everything. I'd rather go, again, this is legislative. We don't have time clocks, except for the fact that this applicant put in an application a long time ago. They'd probably like an answer.
Well, not only that, but I think the
But
public
it's
is
better to-
confused on the thing.
Well,
I do
and that's
too.
the other
I do
thing.
too.
And so,
Yeah.
what I'll do is I'll put together a presentation articulating what a PUD is, going through all those types of things, and make sure that everybody's on the same page and folks understand what's going on. And that's really what it was brought here this evening for, was to make sure that,
Okay.
but we got to get this going, so we will bring it back in June. I
Sounds
would
good.
have done it in May. The only other option would be to do a, special meeting in May, and I'd really rather not do that unless you guys want to.
No.
Because May doesn't have a lot going on, but June's going to be a pretty busy meeting.
When was this sent out for public comment? If everybody answered these individuals who commented all within the same day?
We're not really sure what happened there.
So,
I'm not, at least.
Big
My
networks or
guess is they
something.
got the
It's exactly what
notice
they
of
did.
the
Yeah,
S&P.
they had a
They
group
saw
email or
it on the
something.
agenda, and then they
Got it.
started sending
Put
in
the
these
word out.
questions. So,
Okay, so, updates on previous items? Yay, nay?
I was gonna ask Stacy if you had any comments about that.
Oh, okay.
Stacy, do you have any comments about what we're talking about with the planned unit development?
I,
are you there?
yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we're just,
I agree. I guess, and I didn't see it in the packet, but I do see it now, but I missed it. But I think we probably should do what you guys are suggesting. So.
okay. It was good timing, man. They just made their decision, Peter. So we'll bring it back in June, and we'll have it to the board by early July.
I was watching on YouTube. Those.
You were what? Oh, yeah, I always forget I'm on TV. I'm trying to remember. The subdivision code was adopted by the board. And then,
We still gotta bring Mullins stuff to the board.
has that even been here? Yeah, that came here, didn't it? I'm trying to remember what else since last time we met went to the board, and I think that was it, was the subdivision code. That's where we're at on that. But we've got more stuff coming down the pipe. Mostly this year, a big focus on regulatory updates. So at SMP, we just did subdivision, and then we'll be moving into zoning code. My guess is now, probably late summer, early fall, we'll start. We've got most of the red lines and stuff done, but we'll actually start the public review process in probably in the fall, with adoption probably early 2024. Just because of the nature. I mean, it's a big, gnarly document, and then how we'll probably present it in pieces, just because it's about the same size as the SMP. Not quite though, but it's close. I think it's only 209 pages. So, so that's coming, and we've got some other CUPs and various other applications that are in process and may be coming. We got a few of those Iwanas, and I'll see when I get the application as to whether they do. So, and other than that, that's it for me unless y'all have questions.
Okay,